So let's talk about 4 use cases for our demonstrations here. The first is going to be, we're going to talk about scoping and planning projects. Secondly, we're going to talk about quality of code and how projects can be impacted by that. Then we're going to talk about securing your mainframe data. So obviously many regulated industries have to secure data and know where that data is used. And fourthly, we're going to focus on business rules, how to harvest business rules using evolveIT to enable those migration projects or just business rules capture projects where you need to understand better where those rules are used. So let's get started with the first demonstration. And we're going to talk instead about scoping and project planning. And so what's important about scoping? And many of you may actually be in the process this month of beginning the process of portfolio planning, looking at what projects you're going to be actually working on next year, and you need a good solid scope for that. You need to be able to count on the information that you're getting, so you need accuracy to identify the assets. You need documentation that clearly identifies what components are involved, and you need metrics to help you understand how complex is the code you're going to be working on. All those things provide benefits in evolveIT to help you better plan these projects. So let's jump into the demonstration. I'm going to bring the tool up here now. So this is the evolveIT dashboard that allows you to work with all the different components. So what I've got here is all the application programs of this application, copybooks, external files, batch functionality here, also DB2 table and CICS information. There's a lot of different components you can put on the screen. This just happens to be the way that I work with the code. And also be aware this is all configurable. So you can have 2 components on screen, or you can have 10, or whatever number you want. So let's get started with an analysis here to identify what it is that we're going to scope. So I'm going to start with a project around an annuity letter. This is an insurance application. And so I'm going to start by finding some data files, some physical data sets. We're going to capture that information, select them, and now we're filtering on those data sets so we find the components that are related. In this case, we have just a few components, 4 batch jobs, 2 programs, and we can see colorization here that tells us about the relationship. In this case, all 4 batch jobs are this light blue color, indicating that they're reading and writing the physical data set information. For the programs, we have one colorized green and the other one blue. The green is indicating that we're reading the data. The blue is indicating that we're writing the data. So we know we've got a good scope here, a small scope, but a set of information that will help us to understand our project. Next, we need to create some documentation. We've got 60 diagrams and reports built into evolveIT. So I'm going to build one of those standardized reports that provides just 3 levels of information, kind of a small call tree here, giving me the batch jobs at the top, the first level of called programs, and then a second level of executed programs from other programs in the application. Once we have this information, we have the ability to do what we call a snapshot. So in this case, we are able to capture the information on screen here, and I like to call this a current state diagram. So this gives us a view of where the application is today. I can add additional documentation by just selecting and typing. Design notes, for example, whatever I want to enter in there, and it gets saved within the diagram. These diagrams can then be saved, also exported, and we can keep all of our notes together. We can also modify these diagrams. We can add additional information, and because this is a lot like a Visio component in our application, we can now make changes and design the changes so we can also build the future state diagrams. These can be shared with other analysts and of course saved in any location. Back inside the evolveIT tool, some additional analysis I may want to do gives me the ability to look, for example, at details of how this batch job is executing. So these are all the job steps in a graphic form. I can expand the job procedure, and now I see input files and output files for my particular step. We see the annuity letter file output, so I know I'm in the right place, and I can continue to drill down for understanding the actual structure for this program. And now we can look through understanding the decisions in this case. We can get a report looking at governing conditions, and we see the actual source code of the data that's being tested in that case. We can also expand, so we see the performs, and we can then look at the paragraph information. Once we have this information, we can also get additional information right in the source code to identify, for example, data usage. This data usage gives us all the locations where the data is used, and also group level information, so that we can find both the exact field we're looking for and also group level usage of the same data. I'm going to close this out so we can go back now. So I think what you've seen is a lot of different ways that we can scope. I'm going to do one more thing here and show you we can refresh on these programs and identify all the copybooks, for example. So I can build a report showing me all the program to copybook relationships. Now I've got a quick list of all the copybooks that are used by this program and by the second program. So we can see 2 there and 122 on the first one. If we want to understand how one individual copybook is used, we can reverse the report and get a copybook to program representation here. And now we see the copybook with all of its programs that are copying that data. So now we've got both directions. We've captured it all. We can export this to CSV, save it, and share it with anyone within the project.